The National Day has anchored at the shores with interesting takeaways, especially as it took place within a peculiar context. A context in which in 5 months' time there will be presidential elections in this country. I will discuss all of these issues with my guest, Enwe Francis, a Northwest Senator. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Inside the Presidency, and on the anchor, I'm your only humble servant, Ashu Nyenti in Yaoundé. Don't go away, just grab a glass of juice, relax on your sofa as I bring to you President Paul Biya's presence on the 20th May Boulevard. This Tuesday is another moment of immersion and total communion between the people and the President of the Republic, the symbol of national unity. At midday, President Paul Biya's motorcade rolls out of the palace gates, pulled by 24 motorcycle outriders, providing him Type A honors. Along the streets, throngs of people and CPD supporters gather at strategic spots to cheer the president up with applause and patriotic songs. It is his first major outing since February 28 under different circumstances. Along the stretch, a string of 46 horses usher the presidential motorcade into the 20th May Boulevard. Upon alighting from his car, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces is received by the Minister Delegate to the Presidency in charge of Defense, Joseph Betia Somo, before the President stands for the national anthem and bows in reverence to the flag. The President will then mount his convertible limousine to solemnly inspect several detachments of different troops mounted in his honor, including the Presidential Guard, the Army, the National Gendarmerie, and the police force, before taking his seat at the official tribune to the joy of personalities and guests who admire the stoicism and joie de vivre of the President. Opening the parade is a worthy display of a contingent of the Nigerian Army invited as friendly forces to participate in the National Day celebrations of Cameroon to the admiration of President Paul Biya. In utmost respect for the ideals of uniformed men and women, the Commander-in-Chief stands for the entire duration of the parade, more than 2 hours, contemplating the loyalty, ever-ready and determined demeanor of the Presidential Guard, the youthful agility of cadet officers from the Combined Services Military Academy, EMIA, and the reliable and dependable bravery and commitment of various factions of the Army, including the Infantry, Navy and Air Force, as well as a friendly posture and thorough exposition of the police force, not leaving out the focus and serviceable temperament of the customs. The firm legs of these men and women march on the macadamized thoroughfare, rhythmic agility and spirited concentration portraying their relevance to the Commander-in-Chief. In a mark of total acknowledgement, President Paul Biya gives a nod of appreciation to the commander of the troops, Air Commodore Eba Bed Benoit, the first Air Force General to receive such honors on 20th May. With unwavering enthusiasm, President Paul Biya immerses himself in the vibrant spectacle of the civilian march past, where pupils and students showcase their boundless energy, political parties demonstrate their patriotic fervor, and civil society organizations proudly display their commitment to the nation. As the grand finale unfolds, a beaming President Biya returns to Unity Palace, his confidence in the Cameroonian nation's vitality palpable, his spirit rejuvenated by the display of unity and dynamism. Honorable Senator Enwe Francis, it's my pleasure to have you on Inside the Presidency today. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Nyenti. It's my pleasure coming here this day and ready to chat with you.
In the days ahead, you'll be returning to Yaoundé for the second ordinary session of the Senate for the 2025 legislative year. How has it been at the Senate all these years?
The Senate has been very interesting. And, it's a new house. but I think I'm an old man in the House, coming from the National Assembly after 2 mandates. And now in the Senate, I think it's almost the same thing. And the difference is that, we call ourselves the upper house of Parliament.
You are one of the rare who is serving in the upper house, who has been at the National Assembly before. Now, how can you compare the two?
Well, in the lower house, we had a lot of pressure, considering I was also in the Finance Committee of the lower house. A lot of pressure, and especially in the Finance Committee, where all the ministers must pass in front of you. At the Senate, not all do pass in front of you, and I'm privileged to be the Vice President of the Finance and Budget Committee of the Senate. And, it's the upper house, and all the deliberations from the Senate, or from the National Assembly, after they have been voted, they are forwarded to us at the Senate to go through again, and when we adopt them, then it can now go back to be sent to the President of the Republic to be passed into law. And we also have the responsibility, we do call the ministers up for some oral questions to clarify on some issues that we want to know about the functioning of some government institutions. And I think it's quite a, it's quite a busy place as well, to an extent, but not as the National Assembly.
And exactly, even as some people think that the Senate has not added much to legislative engineering. What is your take on that?
No, we have added much. It's something late in the Constitution, so people should not be need to judge it from outside there. We do deliberate a lot on all the bills that come as well when they come to the Senate. They are also sent to the various committees responsible for that, and full deliberations are done on what the National Assembly has done. At some point, they may cut one eye or cut some teeth and so on to make sure it is a document that is fit for the president to decree it into a law. And I don't see why people should be complaining.
Well, that was just to give you a shot in the arm. Our program today is essentially on debriefing the 53rd edition of the 20th May that just passed. Honorable Senator, so how did it go in your area where you come from? How did the celebrations of 20th May go?
Wow, 20th May celebrations in Widikum were a come and see this year, 2025, considering that since 2016-17, when the crisis started in the Northwest and Southwest, things have been timid, especially when the crisis was still really, the tension was still very high, where we'll just do a few sittings and, and still celebrate. It's still a celebration. But I think this time the crowd that came out, for the first time, it's like the earliest, the 2015s or the time before 2016 crisis started. So life is booming back in Widikum. The population came out in their various groups, traditional, cultural and development associations, all came out. People coming out to carry the effigy of the head of state, and marching freely in Widikum. The bike riders carrying the effigy, the flag of the nation, and riding all over the whole place. In fact, it was, those who thought that there was a ghost town and were hiding in their houses and so on, saw the ambience, and finally everybody found themselves at the grandstand to celebrate.
So what accounts for this massive mobilization this time around?
Our people are tired with the violence that has been going on. And I think everybody wants peace. After my visit to Widikum in October last year, for the first time after 7 years, and I left Widikum in 2017 May, knowing that I'm only coming to Yaoundé for 1 week and go back. I never knew I would come and stay for 7 years. And I went back in October 2024, where some of those notorious guys came out of the bushes. I officially received them in front of the population at the ceremonial ground and took them the next day to the disarmament center in Bamenda. I think I handed them to the governor's service, and they were now transferred to DDR. Since then, the few remnants that were hanging around had to start calling to negotiate to come out, and we have gradually pulled all of them. They're in DDR, and there's total peace in Widikum. Some of them have even gone down to Widikum for visits, and they are not threat to anybody. The population is calm, and for that reason, people came out to celebrate peace on the 20th May. Everybody mobilized at his own level, and to celebrate and to give thanks to the head of state who has been fighting for peace, for us to live in unity. And I think the peace has come. Let Cameroonians live as one. As the president has always mentioned in all his speeches, you will notice that in all the speeches of the head of state, he will never forget talking about Cameroonians living in oneness, living as a people. Yes, unity in diversity. We are one people, and I think that should remain in the minds of every citizen of this country, to know that we have only this country. It was not a mistake that we were born Cameroonians. Our navels were planted in this country, and we have a right to make sure we live in harmony, we live as one people, and we live in peace.
Okay, Mr. Senator, we're going to take our first pause in this program. It was not only President Paul Biya who was at 20th May Boulevard. In fact, the First Lady of this country, the President's spouse, Madame Chantal Biya, was also present and took an active part in the festivities on the 20th May Boulevard. As you tell us, Ayi Bile.
Spreading love, joy and warmth wherever she goes. First Lady Mrs. Chantal Biya was in her festive mood as she arrived at the 20th May Boulevard, one richly adorned with the colors of the nation, messages on banners and jam-packed with trusted aides and councillors of the president, movers and shakers in politics, the legislative branch of government, the judiciary, defense and security officials, friends and partners of Cameroon, but also